Νιώθω ότι είμαι σπίτι μου όταν χορεύω. Νιώθω ότι μπορώ να είμαι εγώ με όλους τους δυνατούς τρόπους.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your initial approach was to filming the dancers at the State School of Dance in Athens?
It's actually the second time that I'm visiting the State School of Dance in Athens, because I've done 4 documentaries, and my first documentary was about the same subject. So since my first documentary, I've always been interested in choreography and filming dance and watching dance, and I have a constant relationship with the school. And since the first time that I went there, I've seen a lot of changes. The first time the dancers, they were more into just dancing, but now they have developed their pieces, and it's more about dance theater. So it's a combination of dance and theater. And I think also the dancers have become more physical and more and more, they have more speed, but also they have developed their ability to act on stage. So, I wanted to go back to the school and try to, experience that via, my documentary. I think it's a documentary about, dancing, but it's also about creativity, and it's also about, how, a young student, because they are still students, and they're about to make a stage from being students to becoming professionals. And it's all about, their uncertainties and also, their insecurities. But it's, I think, the biggest part of the documentary is about their choreographies and how the process of their choreographies. And they have some choreographers that come from abroad and teach them specific choreographies, but they choreograph some pieces themselves. So it's a combination about dancing, but also about creating their own pieces.
Πάντα θυμάμαι ότι μου άρεσε να ασχολούμαι με το σώμα, δηλαδή να εξερευνώ αυτό, το σώμα.
There's a final show which is taking place within the school, a little theater that they have in the school, and it's called Black Box. That's why the film is called Black Box also. And this takes place every year in mid-June. So I was there like a month before the performance, and I stayed throughout the performance. So I was filming for about 45 days.
And how was your setup different from your previous film, which was in the police headquarters in Athens? Did you have a bigger crew, smaller crew, different equipment? How was it different? I'm sure the atmosphere was completely opposite.
Yeah, no, the crew is always the same. It's very minimal. It's just me and the sound recorder. Unfortunately, our productions are extremely limited in terms of budget. It's very, we don't have the luxury to have a bigger crew. But my approach is a little bit different, but not that different. I mean, the kind of documentaries and the kind of cinema I liked, it's more based on observation, and it's more based on what we call observational cinema, which means that you go in a place and you start observing what is going on. Usually, up to now, I wasn't using interviews or narration, but this time, I interviewed the dancers because I felt that it's more appropriate if via the interviews we start to get we really try to understand how they are thinking and what their approach is towards their profession. So I think that the only difference is that in the previous film, which is about the emergency call center and the police headquarters, is that this time I interviewed my subjects. Of course, also the subjects are very different, because on the film about dance is more about creativity and about the how they're using their body to tell a story. While the other film, it's more based on the stories that the civilians are telling when they're calling the police. So it's a very, I would say, it's a film like the film about police, a film based on sound, and a film based on the verbal stories, while this is more based on the human body.
Είναι αυτό που, όπως είναι στη ζωή που μπορεί να έχεις διάφορες σχέσεις, να βιώνεις στιγμές ευτυχίας και τα λοιπά. Κάτι αντίστοιχο σαν να έχεις μια άλλη ζωή πάνω στη σκηνή μέσα στα μαθήματα.
And I was curious in the background while you're filming the film, and there's cuts in a lot of areas in Greece. Is the school kind of safe from the cuts, or have they had reductions in their staff while you're filming? I was curious if that was in the backdrop.
Yeah, I mean, they have, I think, I don't know a lot about the administrative, but I know some things, and they have a significant reduction in their budget, almost like 30 to 40%. And that meant that, they have to reduce their staff. But I think they also innovated a little bit, where you see like some of the students actually doing some, of the repairs, like cleaning up the school, and so they're trying to reduce their cuts as much as they can, and they're using, innovative and sometimes, disruptive, I think, for the school, methods to be able to overcome that.
The film is a Greek Film Center and an Hellenic radio television production. In this age, when both of those have been cut, what did that mean for you? Was it funded by them? Or did it just have their support?
Initially, this film was supposed to be a co-production between myself and the ERT, but unfortunately, the contract was never signed. But although I had a verbal agreement, that they're going to be co-producing the film, that's why they're, when you see the credits, you see RT as a co-producer, but unfortunately that never actually happened. And I had to apply for the Greek Film Center for the funds that I didn't get from the RT. To get them from the Greek Film Center, and that's what I did. And the Greek Film Center helped, some of the documentary filmmakers to be able to finish, their films. But again, I mean, we're only talking about a very, very small amount of money, which just helps you a little bit with the post-production. You basically have to cover the whole cost of the film yourself. And especially, I think, for people that are doing documentary filmmakers, it's a very, very difficult period, because we only had like basically one client, because ERT is the only one who is screening our films. And this is, at the moment, ERT is not, does not exist anymore.
I had read that you were working on an animation about the young man who was killed, which sparked all the riots in 2008, Alexandros. Is that project happening? Is that what you're working on next?
I mean, I've been doing research for that project. I did for a couple of years, like for 2 years, we're following that story, like following the trial and trying to interview Alexandros' friends and trying to do a lot of research about the story and doing, also some sketches about some scenes and stuff like that. The problem is that, one big problem is that an animation film that we want to do, the cost of the film is over 5 million, because animation is very costly, and I don't think at the moment, it's a very clever idea to try to find this kind of film, this kind of money for a film like that, because it's impossible in Greece. So we kind of, because it's a group of people that we are working on it, we have left it a little bit, and we might pick it up at some later stage.